Welcome to Movement Maker TV. I'm Terri Broussard Williams, and we're here to talk about the what, the why, and the how we can build movements together. If you've been watching, you've learned a little bit about policy making. You've learned a whole lot about philanthropy. And today, we're going to get to the meat and potatoes of building movements. We're going to talk about actually building the movement. I'm so excited to have Vanessa Fuentes here as my guest. Vanessa and I have this rich, long history and relationship because we have not only worked together, we have volunteered together, and I've watched her build movements from scratch. So one thing I want to talk to you about, Vanessa, is your work with the Greater Austin Hispanic Chamber. I have watched you served in the role of the chair of the Advocacy Committee, and they've always done great work. There's rich history and foundation there, but you've been able to organize the group in a manner that it hasn't been organized before. Share with us a little bit about the ingredients that were there and what magic did you infuse to make the group even stronger?
Wonderful. Thank you, and thank you for having me, Terri. I think with the Greater Austin Hispanic Chamber, one thing that really gels our group together is having a really strong mission. You're only as good as your mission. And so knowing that the Hispanic Chamber strives to be the leading resource for the Latino business community in Austin, it really made it easy to bring together our members to coalesce around wanting to advance that mission. And so having that in mind, we set out to build a structure, because there hadn't been one, as you mentioned, that would give us the tools and the resources needed to succeed. And so what that looked like was making sure that we had consistency. As with anything in life, consistency, discipline is key, right? And for us, that was having regularly set meetings, making sure that communication was strong and that everyone knew where, when, and why we were meeting, and then having a guiding plan. And that's what I really like about Movement Makers, that you have a worksheet that's pretty easy to follow. And that's what we strive to do for the Hispanic Chamber, was having easy to follow, very workable guiding plans. And so with that, it really was the foundation that we set in building our legislative agenda. And I'm very proud that with the leadership structure that we have in place, and thanks to our members, we were able to adopt our first legislative agenda.
That's so exciting, and it's really harder to do than most people think.
Yes.
I do want to point out, if you go to terribwilliams.com and sign up for the newsletter, you'll get a downloadable worksheet that will help you begin to formulate what that agenda should look like. You'll be able to talk about your opponents, your allies, the dream killers, the people who don't want you to succeed. But once you go through all of those steps, you'll be in a place where you can create an actionable plan, and one that'll allow you to be consistent. It's so great that you now have this agenda and this tool that it's almost your North Star or your guiding point. So the next step in movement building would be teaching your members how to use their voice. Yes. So what are you guys doing in that space, and how do you have everyone be in a place where they're confident and they're on the same page and using the same talking points?
Absolutely. Well, I think step one is sharing that there's power in your voice, right? Knowing that your story is unique to you, and that there's value in your story. So what we did is, back in December, we held a workshop, and I like to call it a fundamental workshop, where we went over Advocacy 101. So we went through the steps of the process of the legislative process, and then we broke out and did this training where our members were encouraged to share their story based on the issues that we're advocating for. And so building out a structure and a scenario that allowed them to role play with each other and to test out how to share their story and feel comfortable and confident really helped with getting them ready for advocacy.
And so now they're ready to go.
Yes.
So they can walk the halls of City Hall,
yes,
pave the granite, the pink building. That's what we call the state capitol in Texas. Yep. So that would get us to our third step, and that's actually moving policy, either little p or big P. If you watched our policy segment, we talked about little p policy, and that's really working with organizations to make change within the organization. Big P policies, when you actually go to a city hall or a capitol and change legislation, a local ordinance, or even at times an executive order. Those are things that will last in all of perpetuity or until someone changes the law that are on the books. So you guys recently have gone to the U.S. Capitol and the state capitol to share your message. Yes. Tell me what that was like now that you have a legislative agenda, and what did your advocacy committee members experience while they were there?
Sure. Well, there's nothing like being at the United States Capitol, first of all. We got to see the cherry blossoms. It was great. But being there, having the opportunity to meet with our Texas senators was incredible, first in and of itself. But we talked about things that were very timely. When we walked to our Capitol, the news headlines were reading that President Trump wanted to shut down the border with Mexico.
Wow, so timely.
Very timely. And, representing a Chamber of Commerce, we instantaneously knew that this was not okay and really bad for business. I mean, between the United States and Mexico, we have over $1 billion of trade every single day. That's our economy at stake. Not to mention that if you take all of the states along the border region, we would have the third largest economy just between the trade between both of our countries.
It's crazy when you think about it.
Yes, absolutely. So we were there and we met with our senators. That was the first thing we talked about. We said, this is not okay, it's bad for business, and here's why. And our members, these business owners, shared their story, shared the real life experience of living on the border. We had members from Rio Grande Valley, and they were able to bring the issue to life. And by the time we were on the plane on the way back, President Trump had rescinded his comments, although he did say he's going to give it a year to think about it, so the advocacy continues. And I think that's something really important.
That is the important part.
Is that advocacy, you can't take victory for granted. You got to keep going because nothing's ever promised.
And you have to check up on them, right?
Yes.
You have to remind them that you're watching, remind them that you have a voice, and remind them that you can go back to ensure that what they said is what they do. Mm-hmm. So I love everything that you said. And I'm thinking about the viewer at home that might not even have seen a Capitol. I often tell the story that the day that I became a lobbyist, I had only been in my state capitol for a 5th grade tour and a 5th grade field trip. So you have been trained, you are ready to walk in that building. It's so hard to find the right room, but you found the right room.
You're gonna get lost a couple times.
A lot.
Or when you open the Capitol building doors, I mean, I think just knowing that there is power there and understanding the history that you're entering upon. I think oftentimes with movements, it's very easy to forget the shoulders that you're standing on. They say that saying, you stand on the shoulders of giants. And there's been so many movements, civil rights movements, Voting Rights Act movement. There's so many movements that have come before us that we are indebted to, but yet we carry the torch for as we continue forward.
Yeah, so very true. There is power, and there's just something about being in the building for me that that gives me so much pride.
Yes.
But literally, you got to open the door. You got to say what you want. You got to say who you want to talk to. You got to tell them your name and what district you're from. If you're from their district, you need to say that first. Or if you're from their area, say that too. And then hopefully you'll get to talk to someone and you'll tell them why you're there, what you want to talk about, and why it's important. And if you don't get a member or a staff, leave them a note. Notes still have so much value. They're so important in building that movement. And then you could also take it online. If someone can't go to Capitol, why don't you share with them what type of work they can do online, just simply from clicking at their computer?
Easiest thing you can do is send an email or a tweet. A lot of our legislators are very active on social media, so that's a great way to get your message across. Studies show that it takes about 30 tweets before a legislator takes notice. So, so get your friends and family and neighbors all involved in tweeting their lawmaker. But I would say those are the online tools that you can take. And at the end of the day, as you mentioned, share that you're a constituent and why you're emailing them, and then always end with the ask.
That's awesome. So thank you so much for watching this edition of Movement Maker TV, and we'll see you next time when we build movements together.